right, welcome everyone again and good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I have Candace Vincent here from Michigan Department of Education, and I am excited to see her presentation on Michigan's early childhood workforce through their CTE and apprenticeship pathways. We know that this topic is very big, especially as it is still developing and more states are trying to figure out their own CTE and apprenticeship programs. And so I can't wait for her to share their process, how they've been able to double their CDA credentials in the state. And without further ado, Candace, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and we can get started.
Sure, awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you to everyone for being here. Um, my name is Candace Vincent. I work as an education consultant in the Office of Career and Technical Education for the Michigan Department of Education. Prior to my time at the department, this is my 7th year at the department, I was a teacher within the CTE area for 17 years. So I taught future teachers, I taught future early childhood educators, and then I came over to the State Department and immediately started working on some really crucial workforce development issues that we had in our state that I know nationally is something that many states, if not all of them, have struggled with. So I'm going to take you on a little journey of the work that we've done in Michigan, and hopefully some of the work that we've done is something that can help other states as they try to strengthen their workforce with quality individuals as well. I want to begin though with somewhat of an overview of Michigan so that you have an understanding of what our landscape looks like in our state. As you have questions, please throw them in the chat. If I see them and I can address those questions while I'm presenting, I try to do that. And if not, I'll do a Q&A towards the end. So our data, by the way, most of this comes from 23-24 school year, except every once in a while I have a data point that we've been able to collect from our 24-25 school year. So this particular data set comes from 23-24. When we began this project, our Future Proud Michigan Educator Launch Project in 2019, we did not have any CTE programs for this particular area in our Upper Peninsula, nor did we have them in most of the regions in our northern half of our state. So Michigan is very much two peninsulas joined by one little bridge, which causes some geographical challenges in our more rural areas for both workforce development and honestly for a lot of our educational outreach as well. We are very much localized in our state. We have over 800 either local education agencies or public service academies. In Michigan, it's pretty typical to have a local school district that only has one high school. We even have some of our local school districts that only have PK to grade 8 offerings and do not feed into a high school. We have in our state enrolled CTE just over or close to 115,000 CTE students. We've got over 2,000 career tech programs. And in this particular CTE area of education and training, we now sit at around 130 active programs in any given year. We have a very large amount of students, more students actually in our early childhood education settings than we do in our career tech settings. And we sit just shy of 1.5 million students statewide. We do have declining enrollment statewide. We have a declining birth rate, therefore declining enrollment. We have also had a little bit of movement in terms of migration out of the state of Michigan and to more warm weather destinations is kind of where we lose our population to. Of our Michigan students, slightly over half of them come from families who are economically disadvantaged, and that's pretty diverse. So when people think of Michigan, they often think of the Detroit, Michigan area. That is where I am located out of. I'm talking to you from the 10th floor of my building right now. But the reality is that Michigan is a very big agriculture-based state, and we have a lot of rural areas. So at any given moment in Michigan, you are within driving distance of water, you are within driving distance of agriculture as well. And then about 15% of our students receive special education services. And we have a growing number of multi-language learners. And that's really important to early childhood workforce development because we have very strong communities of primarily Spanish speaking or primarily Arabic speaking. But then we also have other communities that are high in some other languages too. So our language needs are pretty diverse in the state of Michigan as well. We are a leader in our early childhood workforce development. We're also a leader in career and technical education and in registered apprenticeships. So these are three of our very big points of pride in our state. And we've been trying in our state to redefine what's possible in early childhood workforce simply because we have this very bold plan in our state to have every 4-year-old enrolled in free high quality preschool by the year 2027. Our target is to serve 75% of our state's 4-year-olds, which is around 89,000 children. And to reach this goal, we know that we need 1,700 more classrooms, we need 1,700 lead teachers, and we need 3,400 associate teachers spread across our entire state to meet our needs. We have a program in our state, the Great Start Readiness Program, also known as GSRP, which is central to this effort. It serves families that are up to 400% in range of the federal poverty level. And our services are delivered through school systems, through Head Start, private child cares, and then also through community providers. So we are in kind of every approach we can to take to early childhood, we want to try to take to meet the needs of our communities. Quality is the cornerstone of what we do in our workforce development and in our early childhood education. Our GSRP program has met all 10 National Institute for Early Education Research quality standard benchmarks for 8 years in a row, which places us in the top 5 states nationally in terms of meeting those indicators. We have had enrollment growth in our programs in early childhood in 2024. And part of that is because we have been lucky enough to have a lot of money invested into early childhood. We had 8.7 million in startup grants for 348 new classrooms, serving over 5,000 more children. And we look at this as one of our state's biggest economic impact strategies. We want our families to save money. We want them to have access to high quality, which then feeds our K-12 system. We want our families to stay in Michigan. And so we're trying to strengthen our workforce so that we are not continuing to lose families to other states. And so I want to give you a little bit of history on where we began because I can, in the year 2025, say really great things about our programs, but in the year 2019 is where all this work started, and a lot of people threw their blood, sweat, and tears into this project. And so without telling you where we began this work, I can't give you the ending appropriately. I was hired in 2019 to work on this project with our very talented team of workers in our early childhood offices at the Department of Ed and our out of school time workers in the Department of Ed. And so basically what happened in 2019 is we had this perfect catalyst. Our governor wanted to expand pre-K for all. Within our department, we had supported leadership. We had some structural changes. So if you are very familiar with the career tech and workforce development landscape, you might know that we throw around terms like high wage, high demand in the workforce development world. And once upon a time, back in the early 2000s in our state, we actually hurt our own workforce development by removing some of our career tech programs that fed early childhood because there was a labor market analysis at the time that said these jobs aren't high wage and these jobs aren't for a high level of education. Early childhood sits beneath K-12. And we know that's not true. We know that early childhood has our most delicate and most important brains in those classrooms. We know that our early childhood and our workers are loving on our children and giving them all the nurturing and all the academic readiness that they need. But the labor market really slammed their foot down and said, it's not high wage, so we can't pursue it. And that was a mistake that we made in our state that in 2019, we recognized that we needed to fix, and we needed to fix it very quickly without sacrificing quality. So we had a teacher certification change in our state that added a birth to kindergarten grade band. When that birth to kindergarten grade band was added in, our Department of Education said, couldn't we just put all childcare and early childhood under the umbrella of teacher? And couldn't we simply say that every step on the way to a birth to kindergarten endorsement is a step towards a higher wage or a higher skill set? And that a CDA should be an entry point, and then we expand our workforce from there. And so when we started to change that mindset a little bit with our labor folks, that opened up an opportunity for us to implement some very cool things in our state by reclassifying that early childhood and child care should be under the high wage, high demand, high education that K-12 teaching is too. So we went to this very birth to grade 12 structure in our teaching. I also was so fortunate at this time to have traveled to Anaheim, California, where I got to meet Dr. Bisa. And I sat through her CDA in high school presentation at our Association for Career and Technical Education conference. It's called Vision. And Dr. Bisa was there presenting on the work that the council was doing around earning a CDA in high school. And that was really a transformational moment for me as one of the leaders of this project to say, I taught this. I know that high school students can do this because I did this with my students once upon a time. Let's bring it back. So we definitely utilized the framework from that conference that was presented to create our own Michigan vision for what our workforce education could really look like. We also continue to have meetings. Again, we started in 2019 with this, but we continue to have meetings at the Department of Ed where we really started to question, what is education? What do we want education to be in our state? Do we want it just to be meeting the benchmarks of the SAT when students are in 11th grade? Or do we want to return to a very holistic, whole child, whole day, whole year, whole life type approach, which includes before birth. So we are actually now a P20 state. We are prenatal through grade 20, age 20. We are looking at strengthening not just our K-12 system, not just our early childhood system, but making sure that those systems work together with out of school time, with post-secondary. And we wanted to make sure that as we continue to create the system, again, that we focused on high quality, retaining of very good educators, focusing on developmentally appropriate expectations and content, and then just simply maximizing all of the funding that could exist in this area. And then COVID hit. So we actually had our first kickoff meeting in person. And then a few weeks later, that is when COVID hit for us, and we pivoted everything to online in our planning. But what COVID did for this project was it exacerbated the need. It made the need very evident to the general public that we don't pay enough to early childhood. The benefits are not good enough in childcare. The working conditions need to be improved. We have staff shortages because we have underfunded and underprepared people. We had classrooms that had to close, not just in early childhood, but we still are suffering in our out of school times with schools who have said, we can't maintain staffing. We are going to have to shut down programming. And we know that when we shut down programming, that hurts families who need the programming to get to their jobs, which in turn hurts workforce in other areas. And it leads to population migration. So COVID helped our project in many ways of putting it more to the forefront of our governor and legislative initiatives, and also with providing additional funding that our state was able to really utilize and put to good use. Um, Research post COVID has also really helped us because it has shown us that early childhood education and care and out of school time mitigate the impact of COVID. Our current kindergartners are our COVID babies. We know that those current kindergartners are coming to us in the K-12 system with unmet needs from infancy and toddler. So we know that having stronger ECE and OST will help us with mitigating that. We used our COVID funds as a catalyst to make changes quickly, knowing that we had the ability in that moment to make some really bold changes to help our system. So our Pre-K for All initiative builds off that bold plan. It ensures every 4-year-old in the state has access to free, high-quality preschool by the year 2027. Again, our target was to serve 75% of our state's 4-year-olds, and we know that we need to quickly grow our workforce. And so that kind of led us to our Future Proud Michigan Educator initiatives in our state. All of these things combined in 2019, 2020 caused us to say, let's put together a new plan for how we prepare our future educators at any level. And let's begin with actually middle school. So our Future Proud Michigan Educator programs were launched. And at the time, we focused on 4 types of people. Looking at individuals who already work in our systems to say, how can we reskill or upskill these individuals? Do we have really great paraprofessionals or early childhood associate teachers who we could put on a pathway to, say, apprenticeship for K-12 teaching or PK-12 teaching? What about career changers, people who are moving into our state from other states? Can we make sure that our reciprocity is true reciprocity as people enter our state? And can we shut down barriers when we realize barriers exist to allow people to seamlessly move into our education and early care professions? And then we looked at our students in the system already, and we said, we have already had a CTE program. Michigan is actually the originator of the CTE program for education and training. Back in 2002, Michigan piloted this program and wrote the original national standards. But our pipeline that we had was really leaky. And so we knew we needed to make some improvements. So we rebranded our CTE program to call it Future Proud Michigan Educator Launch. And our tagline is that we are launching education careers through credentialing. Our CTE students have to earn industry recognized credentials, and we went big and bold with the credentials that we picked in our state that we would allow our students to work towards. And then we also created a supplementary program or a complementary program in our Future Proud Michigan Educator Explore program. That can be offered as early as students in grades 6. It could be summer learning, it could be out of school time, it could be a class that runs prior to the career tech program. So what we basically said in our state was career awareness and career exploration and being aware of what's out there and knowing how to explore the system. We actually want our students to come to high school having a little more awareness and having had some chances to explore careers. When they're in high school, if they choose to enroll into career tech ed, we want to make sure when they leave career tech ed, they're not just entry level. They're entry level plus something more, something bigger. And so that's kind of how our program was born. And we knew that we could hit three big stones, or three big birds with one stone, I should say. We knew we could get our certified teacher workforce elevated, our early care and education, and then, of course, our out of school time workers. Our statewide needs, other pieces that came into this project, were that we wanted to make sure that we were diversifying our pipeline, that we were pulling from our urban communities to feed our urban communities, our rurals to feed our rurals, and that this was a true grow your own initiative, so that students could have role models in their classrooms who look like them, who speak their languages. We also wanted to make sure that we were supporting our CTE goals of earning credentials and our governor's goal of 60% of adults having higher level credentials by the year 2030. So we want people with associate degrees, bachelor's, and master's, but we also want people who earn an industry recognized credential like the CDA, earning them as early and as pain-free as possible, barrier-free as possible. Just showing this slide so that you know who was on our original team. I am not someone who takes credit for others' work. We had very talented folks that contributed to this work. We were lucky to receive federal technical assistance from our Regional Comprehensive Center. We had talented cross-office work. And then actually partway through this project, our governor created a new department in our workforce where that department focuses on lifelong learning. So early childhood, post-secondary, out of school time, anything that doesn't fit within the traditional K-12 model went to a new department, and that is our department called MyLeap. It's Lifelong Education, Advancement, and Prosperity, I believe. So we had three different state departments: MyLeap, the Michigan Department of Education. Oh, I'm sorry, four. Our Labor and Economic Opportunity Department, and then our Licensing and Regulatory Affairs Department all worked together on this work. And I always keep the slide in the presentation because it truly demonstrates that we broke down some barriers cross office, cross agency as we began this work. Without all the key players in the room from the very beginning, we would not have had success with this project. We also involved every single possible outside group that may or may not have had an interest in this work. This is not a full list that you see on the screen, but I can guarantee you there was not one group in the state of Michigan that has not been represented at the table for part of the work that we've done. And I have to start with two of our biggest groups that we worked with were the Michigan After School Partnership and Michigan Association for the Education of Young Children. Without our Michigan Association for Education of Young Children, we could not do this work successfully. They have taken PDG 5 funds that our state utilized, COVID funding that we utilized. They have revamped all of the work that they do within their organization to support any workforce initiative in early childhood that they have come across. So not just our career tech initiative wanting students to earn more CDAs, but also our out of school time initiative wanting people to earn our out of school time credential, and then all of our early childhood apprenticeship work and staff needs and supporting annual conferences, either by attending our career tech conferences to help teachers and administrators, or by paying for our career tech teachers and students to attend their annual conference. They also hold a higher learning summit for workforce development, where all the key players in higher learning are able to sit in the same room and talk about needs, barriers, successes, and learn from each other. Our Michigan AEYC has put together so many resources for our teachers. I cannot possibly name them all. If you go to their website, you are able to click on a variety of different resources. They are also fully funding the credential attainment in our state through their Teach scholarships. So students can earn their CDA completely for free. They also receive a bonus when they earn their CDA. So this is one document that Michigan Association for Education of Young Children put together just to show the cost savings that they can offer through their Teach scholarships and their Teach support. And again, this doesn't even begin to scope or scrape the surface on all of the support that they offer. They go to our teacher conferences for career tech, and they run one-on-one trainings with teachers. They do support with students as they have questions. They have allowed our students to present at their conferences, and they can save all of our educators quite a bit of money. In Michigan, you could obtain a teaching certificate for free by stacking all of the resources that our state has available right now. So it's an exciting time for us, but I think a lot of people still don't realize that we have all this out there. But for our high school students to get a $200 bonus just for earning their credential, and the credential is free, that's an astronomical cost savings that really can improve someone's life. In addition, our college system has been awarding college credit for CDA completion, but I think I have that on a later slide, so I don't want to go too far in depth onto it. A major part of our project was to get as close to 100% as possible of our career tech and high school students enrolled in Michigan's My Registry system. So we have the My Registry system. I'm going to actually scooch to the next slide real quick. On our My Registry system, this is our statewide professional learning system for early childhood educators and caregivers. We worked within multiple systems to brainstorm and create changes. We allowed each of our teachers to have an account in the system to put every single student into it and to align their career tech learning to their professional learning journey. So this is a really big demonstration of Michigan's commitment to early childhood workforce quality. And we know that our credentials increase employability and career progression for students. So with the system we put together, we began to find some best practices and some barriers to identify. So first off, we wanted our students to have choice in career tech. We wanted them to enter the program because they knew they wanted to work with students. We didn't want them to have to say, I know I'm 16, but I 100% want to work with 4-year-olds. We wanted them simply to be able to say, I'm a 16-year-old who knows I like to work with kids and I know I like to inspire others, but I want to be able to feel out which age group is most appropriate for me. So in any given CTE program, you could have a teacher who is teaching to a few students who want to work in early childhood, a few who want to work in upper elementary, and a few who say, you know what, I want to work in middle school, high school, out of school time, college professor. So we wanted to have the student choice determined through what they demonstrated at work-based learning. We wanted students to have a very strong ownership of their learning process because we know that that leads to better outcomes. And that's what the My Registry really gives them. They're able to track their credential progress in that system. And then we worked with our licensing and regulatory authority, Lara, to say 16 and 17-year-olds in our old licensing rules did not count into ratio for child care centers. So as an employer, would I want to hire a 16 or 17-year-old? I'm sure I'd want to, but fiscally doesn't make sense for me if that 16 or 17-year-old can't count into ratio for licensing purposes. Well, the answer there is no, that doesn't make sense fiscally because we have centers who are barely making ends meet. We can't ask them to take on an employee that doesn't count into their ratio. So we worked with our licensing and regulatory affairs, and we asked for them to make an exception and say 16 and 17-year-olds can work if they meet all the other licensing requirements for any other worker. So background checks, completing health and safety training. Those are all required before our students can go into the workforce. Once they enter into the workforce, from there, our goal is that hopefully they can be retained by those child care centers through their career. So we wanted to make sure that we had the ability for students working on these very rigorous credentials to fail. Basically, we know not all high school students will earn this credential in high school, but if they get 3/5 of the way through the credential, is there a way to document that so that when they go off into the workforce or into college, can they complete the credential after high school? So we utilize that My Registry system as a way for students to log their progress so that they could return back if they weren't successful in obtaining their credential in high school. That's a really big piece of data that we're hoping to be able to capture in the future so that we can break down how many students earned a CDA in high school, how many students earned a CDA shortly after high school because they only had a few competency areas left to complete. So we want to make sure that they don't lose progress. We began with 2 approved credentials in our state, the preschool CDA and then the Michigan Youth Development Associate, which is a credential our state developed that mirrors much of what the CDA looks like. So we began with those 2. Then we added in the infant toddler CDA. We added the Michigan Youth Development Certificate, which is kind of a halfway point between earning the credential. And then last year we added the CDA family child care because our state will be utilizing family child care as part of the delivery service for that pre-K for all expansion. So we said, well, let's do it. And we know that in our rural and urban areas, we have a dire need for family child care. It helps to provide services to families. So why wouldn't we allow for our students to get some experience in that in high school? And then this fall, we anticipate that we will add the center-based birth to 5 CDA as well. So that is a next step for our students. We managed to get well over 5,000 students into our My Registry system. If our goal from before was 3,400 associate teachers by 2027, we have the pipeline only from our high school students to meet that need should they all move forward with earning their CDA to be an associate teacher. Our students can be paid. We were named 2 years ago by the US Department of Ed as a best practice. And then we also aligned everything. And I'm going to show you what that looks like here on the next slide. We put together a competency-based learning system for CTE in our state, and we took competency areas or content areas. We had teachers working on this with Workforce, and they came up with these category areas. What you might notice about these areas is that they align perfectly with the competency areas within our CDA or content areas within our CDA. So on the left here, what you see are the competency statements that we have in our career tech program. Demonstrates knowledge of ethical practices aligned with state laws and the responsibilities of the educator in recognizing reporting known or suspected abuse, neglect, maltreatment. So mandated reporting is a competency statement. This competency statement comes from our educator preparation providers. This is a competency that all of our graduates with a teaching certificate must have mastered, but it aligns perfectly to the CDA's establishing and maintaining a safe, healthy learning environment. It aligns perfectly to the YDA's safety and wellness competency or content area. So we created this giant crosswalk. This is 1/5 of it. We have 5 different areas in the program. But we made sure that we had this alignment because in a true competency-based system, we could accelerate our students or our workers through the system and allow for less time over the age of 18 to reach a teaching certificate. So this kind of the stepping stone into apprenticeship, if you will. was having a competency-based system. We then worked with our community college association to build a credit for credentials engine on our Michigan transfer website. So Michigan, like most states, has a website statewide for students to go to so they know if their college credits will transfer within the state. Within that system, what we did was we added hundreds of credentials. This is not just for the CDA, this is for any credential in any workforce area in our state. You can search by sending provider, you could search by the receiving institution as well. This is just a tiny little snapshot here, but in our state, if someone earns a CDA, they are going to earn anywhere between 5 and 18 college credits that can directly transfer in as long as they can show the evidence of earning that credential, which is very easy to show. So this just simply shows a few of our colleges. There are, I believe, 28 different agreements in our system right now for the CDA. So every career tech program has to have college credit earning opportunity as a result of completing the career tech program. We have that. We have all these statewide agreements. If a student simply completes the career tech program and doesn't earn a credential, they can earn college credit. As soon as they earn their credential, they are now earning additional college credit. So a student could walk out of one of our career tech programs with some pretty hefty credit earned, again, reducing time spent in an educator preparation institute, but also reducing money. So cost and at a considerable savings. When you look at what that alignment in terms of competency-based ed looks like, a student could take the Explore program in those grades 6 through 12. They would earn a handful of the competency statements that they need in the career tech program. So they would accelerate into the career tech program. Our career tech program students could earn up to about half of the amount of college credit, time, and competencies for a teacher apprenticeship. Whether that's a birth to kindergarten, a PK3, a 3 to 6, it doesn't matter. We can write a teacher apprenticeship for any of our grade bands. We can write an early childhood apprenticeship for anything the employer wishes. So in our state, we have apprenticeships that lead to a CDA. We have apprenticeships that lead to an associate in early childhood. We have others that lead to a bachelor's degree. We have some that lead to a birth to kindergarten teaching grant or teaching grade band. Grant, that's a good word. So we put in place everything based off a competency in a hope to accelerate our folks through the system. And this is kind of an example of what that looks like in action. So an example of one of our pipelines. Again, we have college credit earned just for taking the CTE program, college credit that can then be stacked from earning the credential. We have an additional type of program in our PK-12 system that is called early middle college. So some states have early college, and early college would be where college is offered in high school. We have that in the form of dual enrollment in our state. Some states have middle college, where there is a bridge between the high school to the college experience. Michigan's program takes those two approaches and blends them. So our students can earn dual enrollment credit anywhere in grades 9 through 12, and or they can enroll in an early middle college program, which would have the student going through grade 13. So we utilized a grade 13 system. This is not available to all students in our state, but we are hoping one day it will be. But basically what happens in early middle college is students can earn an associate degree or very close to an associate degree in any area that they wish. So in our education program, we've got this great middle school elective. Students get their toe wet. They get the fun stuff of teaching and working with kids. And so they get to make that exploratory decision of, I love working with children. This is where my heart is. How can I now get to that high school CTE program So when I leave career tech, I've earned college credit, I've gained experience. So I'm not starting at the bottom of the pay scale when I enter my career. I've already had paid placement at the age of 16 and 17. At the age of 18, I can hopefully move up on that scale and have better pay parity within the industry. So we figured pay parity, we're going to start at the bottom and lift the bottom until we get to the top and can lift that as well. Early middle college adds one more layer to that. Now we have an associate degree completely for free with the structure and support that a high school delivers. Then, if someone wants to go into an educator preparation program or a teacher apprenticeship, we are looking at only 2 years in that particular apprenticeship. From an employer standpoint, let's say I'm Saginaw ISD, Saginaw Intermediate School District. I have an early childhood center on my campus. I need staff. I can employ my high school students to keep my ratio going. I can train them in all of the philosophies and mindsets that I want any worker in my district to have. And I can do this at no cost to myself as the employer until the last 2 years where they enter into an apprenticeship. And now, as the employer, I'm making a final investment in that employee. Apprenticeship has a 97% or higher retention rate. So when we think of apprenticeship, some people will think of that as a great recruiting mechanism. It's an okay recruiting mechanism to offer apprenticeship. It is an amazing and the best possible retention method for keeping employees. They have seen that their employer has made an investment in them. We have gotten to them very early in their career, and people who complete apprenticeships tend to stay put because they feel a sense of loyalty. And again, going back to that, you could earn a teaching degree for free. That's yet another way to do it. What I should have also have said on this page, I don't have a slide for this, but while we worked on this pipeline, our governor gave us another gift, and that was that we now have free community college in our state. So if a high school student immediately goes into community college, that is completely paid for. What that did was it opened up more funding for Michigan AEYC to expand their offerings through their Teach Scholarship. And it also offered us at the state level just the ability to expand offerings because we're not having to help people find a way to pay for the first half of their bachelor's degree. We found it. And then, of course, the beauty of all of this is that alignment into registered apprenticeship. We have an amazingly dedicated team who works on registered apprenticeship. And one thing that we wanted to be sure of in our early childhood apprenticeships and our teacher apprenticeships was that we didn't change anything related to the quality. We chose apprenticeship in our state as a quality measure. We know that people who complete an early childhood apprenticeship are extremely qualified to work in early childhood. They have had so much mentoring, so much on the job training, that they have really proven themselves to be a high quality worker. Same with teacher apprenticeship. We were very careful that we said quality is going to be the cornerstone of apprenticeship in our state. So we didn't change any requirements other than that licensing requirement of 16 and 17. And I'm going to still argue that that's for quality too. We have advised folks to use apprenticeship as a retention strategy, and it is an investment in having high quality staff that you know is going to stick around. We have worked hard on strong mentorship, relationship building, and community building. We want people to utilize apprenticeship in the best ways that work for them. We want our employers to see the value of apprenticeship as a life-changing mechanism for people in their community. You can take a person who does not have a high school diploma or GED and apprentice them into a teacher apprenticeship. Will it be long? Possibly. But when you know you have a volunteer or a worker who is of high quality and has talent, you can really make a very significant investment into that person. Some of the lessons we learned along the way with our apprenticeship work was to make sure that you have all of your stakeholders at the table at the very beginning of conversations. Don't have internal meetings and then invite union representation later on. Have the key players present from day one and co-design apprenticeship with families, with the unions, with any other important stakeholder in your community. And in our state, what we've decided is our career tech programs are going to give foundational learning. Our employers are going to give that real world work experience. Our post-secondary institutions are going to support by aligning credit and coursework. And then our state agencies, we are simply providing policy and funding support along with some technical assistance to our employers or our other partners. Our state apprenticeship readiness team also recognized that we had a really good opportunity with this work to recognize pre-apprenticeship and target pre-apprenticeship in an effort to, again, utilize more braided funding and reduce the amount of time that a person sits in registered apprenticeship. So we put together our Michigan Apprenticeship Readiness Certificates. There are two types of Michigan Apprenticeship Readiness Certificates that are offered. And essentially what these certificates are doing, again, is reducing the amount of time. So a typical apprenticeship might take a much longer time. When we utilize a Mark 1 certificate, basically what our Mark 1 certificate is it is giving employers basically a guarantee that a candidate is interview ready. So if Saginaw ISD, going back to that example, when they offer their Mark 1, it might be something like students who complete a Mark 1 certificate have completed the career tech program. And because they've completed the career tech program, when we have an apprenticeship opportunity, that student will have a guaranteed interview. Okay? It doesn't mean they're going to get the apprenticeship, but it's a guaranteed interview. Apprenticeships are selective. They are not necessarily wide open. So we want our students to have a competitive edge with apprenticeship readiness. A Mark II certificate, on the other hand, this is now actually providing on-the-job and related training. This might be something like if a student has completed the CTE program and earned their CDA, they then meet the Mark Level 2, and we will give them 120 hours of related training and instruction credit and 480 hours of on-the-job training credit, and therefore shortening their time in the registered apprenticeship program of their choice. So again, giving an opportunity to take advantage of braided funding. Our Mark benefits for candidates, of course, I already kind of said, but for our employers, they are really having a chance to pre-vet their candidates for interviews, a very streamlined selection process. And then, of course, it cuts their costs because they're relying on having that person in an apprenticeship less time. Again, this is kind of just showing that outline of what a Mark Level 1 might look like, and then what a Mark Level 2 may look like in terms of what it can give to our employers and to our participants. Our participants who earn Mark certificates, they do receive a certificate of completion that they can take then on to the employer. And our employers, we're making sure that we recognize them as well, because we want to make sure that we keep our employers in the state of Michigan happy so that they continue to work with our students. So it's all about building relationships. I want to give you just quick data facts here. When we started this program, or when we started tracking our credential data, I should say, from 2022, we had 1 CDA infant earned across the state of Michigan and 34 preschools earned. I was happy with these numbers because they were certificates earned, and all we gave as a guideline was let's grow the numbers next year. So we went from 34 to 43 on our preschool CDAs. We then moved up into more infant CDAs, 6 and 24, 63 preschool CDAs in 24. So we are watching our needle move with every year. I wish I had 2025 for you. I have been watching the data roll in live. We're not quite done with our capture, but we will exceed these numbers with no doubt in the year 2025. Our schools have until August 30th to finish their reporting. This is a breakdown of where those credentials were earned in the year 2024. It's significant for a few reasons. If you're familiar with the state of Michigan, again, earlier I said, we didn't have any programs north of about right here. And yet we had earners in Iron Dickinson, Menominee, this is Core ISD, and then Iosco. But then our thumb region, this is a very rural region of our state. And so we are really hitting the mark in getting more CDAs into our rural areas. We do need to make some improvements. You see Detroit, we didn't have any. Grand Rapids, we didn't have any. Flint, we only had a few. So in our more urban areas, we need to expand our offerings. And that's now something we can target moving forward. But we were very excited to see this and very excited to celebrate our career tech programs and the success, because most of these programs had never had a credential earner. And so we're happy with this. This is that attainment chart from the 2020 school year to 2024. And you can just simply see that we went from 2 in 1920 all the way up to 113 in 2024 in terms of credential attainment. So proud of our teachers for what they've done here. And then we've also increased our CTE program offerings. So we had 58 programs running in the year 2020. We had 122, which ran in 2025. Our early middle college offerings, we had 4 of these back in 2020, and we had 20 of them run in 2024. We don't have our 2025 data yet. Our student growth, we stayed pretty firm in our numbers through COVID, which is a miracle for anyone who knows how everything else dipped during COVID. Our dip is really insignificant. We have 91% growth since the beginning of this project. We had 4,881 students in our pipeline just last year. So we're very, very proud of that. And going back to this concept of we really wanted to expand equity and access, we know that the more we can offer this program to all students in the state, it opens doors for our underrepresented and underserved populations. We've had this great focus on rural, economically disadvantaged, and multilingual learners. We actually have multiple programs in the state right now where students are primarily Spanish speaking, working with students who are primarily Spanish speaking, earning their CDA in Spanish. So those programs exist in Detroit at the Academy of the Americas. That teacher speaks Spanish as her primary language as well. We have one in Pontiac, same thing. That teacher is multilingual and she is working with students who can speak Spanish or English, depending on their choice, and then they can earn their CDA in Spanish. And then we have 2 more on the west side of the state in very rural communities where students are working on their CDAs in Spanish. So we are very excited about that. Our next step is those Arabic languages and working on that. We wanted to see diverse representation in our early childhood workforce because we know that there's a need. There's a need in our communities for people who speak the same language. And we wanted to make sure that we were increasing opportunities for students and, quite frankly, inspiring adults who didn't consider an education career or didn't even consider the fact that they could have an education career. For me, that's my game changer in this project. I look at those folks who life happened and they wanted to maybe be a teacher or a childcare provider, and life happened, and now we can come back and get them as adults. Like, I gotta watch the time, I got 4 minutes. Maybe there will be no questions. When you have a grow your own, what you find is your students look like your students. So we have very similar statistics in the students who are graduating from our program as all of our K-12 students when it comes to some of our areas. We have some work to do in other areas, but I'm very proud to see that our pie is representative for the most part of the populational pie. We got to work on getting more programs into urban areas. We are struggling to get more males in our program, but we are slightly moving the needle there. And I can't wait to see this year's numbers. And some of our insights that we have had is just simply to make sure that if you're going to do this work, that you have strong alignment, strong engagement, that you try to break down barriers and make things flexible for both students and employers. If it's not in the employer's best interest, they're not going to have the capacity to work with your career tech program. We have ongoing mentorship and professional development for our career tech teachers so they feel supported, so they continue to encourage students. Our challenges at the beginning were recruitment, scheduling, resource alignment, and kind of naysaying all the naysayers. So myth busting that yes, early childhood can be high wage. Yes, early childhood is in demand. And yes, early childhood requires some pretty good training and high quality. We had to work a lot to break down the myths of the industry to a lot of our folks out in the industry. That was a key starting point. This slide I'm going to leave in here, but we actually have a legislative ask right now to our lawmakers in our state. Our current substitute teaching requirement in our state is for students or for people to have 60 college credit hours. 60 college credit hours does not necessarily mean that you are going to get a talented substitute teacher in the classroom. But what we know from our students who have completed this program is that when they have a CDA or a YDA, they know how to implement a lesson. They know classroom safety. They are good. They are so much better than 60 credit hours could ever be. So we have a legislative ask to allow for people that have their CDA or YDA in our state to be allowed to substitute teach if they have not yet met the 60 credit hour requirement. And so more to come on that. We need our legislators to take it up. And if you've been following anything in any state with their legislators, it's been a tough year. But we're hoping to get this in place so that, again, we can bring more credibility to our credentials, but so that we're also helping our schools with flexibility because it's important. So I didn't leave a lot of time for discussion, but I also don't see a lot of questions or any questions in the chat other than yes, you will get a copy of this. My information is on the screen. I am always happy to meet with another state, another agency to share our learning challenges and our learning successes over the years, what we have found works and what doesn't, and what we brainstorm. But my biggest thing that I will tell anyone on this call is if you can dream it, you can do it. You just have to find where the challenge lies in your state or what's preventing it from being done and work with that challenge to figure out how to break the barrier. And that is something, because we've had just this amazing, talented team of people, there is someone on my team who knows someone anywhere if we need a barrier busted. So I am not the end all be all. I am not the expert. I have a team of experts. And when I don't know or they don't know, we ask each other. We're humble and we're passionate. And that's what has made this project work, along with the support of the council and of Michigan Association for Education of the Young Child. I just can't say enough good things about our team. They've been amazing. So it is 1 o'clock. Thank you everyone for attending. Please, if you have questions, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can message me that way too. I'm happy to help. And I know everyone on my team is happy to help because we have to have good opportunities for kids, right? It's what it's all about. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Candace, and thank you everyone else for joining us today. This was great. I'm so glad we got a chance to get you here to share this information. Again, Candace has a QR code if you want to contact her here on this slide. Otherwise, you can also email us and reach out for any information. A recording of this will be shared along with the presentation. We're going to try to send it in a few different formats so that everybody can access it easily. Thank you again, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.